Murdock family was well known in the low country of South Carolina. For generations, Murdock men controlled the criminal courts as the local solicitors, deciding who would get prosecuted. They also had immense influence in the civil courts as the region's top personal injury law firm, suing companies and corporations and recovering millions of dollars in judgments and settlements. This power led to wealth and immense influence for the family. And that's what makes the case against Alex Murdaugh so unusual. Alec is accused of murdering two members of his own family, his wife Maggie and his son Paul. And at the heart of this case is the question, why would a Murdock murder another Murdock? Today, high drama inside the courtroom as Alec's surviving son Buster takes the stand for the defense. Does he believe his father is innocent? Tonight, we have all the big moments from this crucial testimony, taking the jury inside the Murdock family.
I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And I've been down to the Low Country covering this case. And one thing that struck me about this part of the country is that family matters. It absolutely matters down there. It matters for the Murdocks, their neighbors, prosecutors, everybody. It's about family. And family looks out for family. And that gets us back to this trial, which to me signifies the ultimate in betrayal. Those are the allegations. A Murdock killing two other Murdocks? A father killing a son, the next in the generation? Remember, the family that Alex Murdaugh comes from. It's like great-grandpa started the whole thing, then his grandfather, then his father, then him. And then he kills his son? And he kills the mother of his children? So there's a Murdock in the middle of all this. His name is Buster. Because Buster is the child of one of the victims. He's the brother of one of the victims, which in most cases here on Court TV, we know exactly where he'd be sitting. We know exactly what he'd be thinking. But the accused is his father, his own flesh and blood. And that puts him in such an awkward position in the middle of all of this. I never wish that on anyone. It's a tough spot to be in. And whatever you may have heard about Buster Murdock in some documentary or rumors or anything else, the one thing I know about Buster Murdock is that he's in the most difficult of all positions, because I've seen children in this position before. And when I say children, adult children, in trials we've covered through the years on Court TV, and it's never easy. And psychologically, I don't know what he could potentially be going through in all this. I mean, he's taking the stand. And I'm wondering where his family ties are. Are they to his mother and his brother, or are they to his father, or are they to both, and he believes his father is just 100% innocent? And I'm not alone here. I'll guarantee you that jury down in Walterboro, South Carolina, wants to understand that as well. Because the impact of a child in a case like this, with allegations like this, can be extremely powerful. Like if he comes into court and you get the feeling that the son thinks his father's guilty, it's over. It is over. On the other hand, if he thinks his father's innocent, it's not necessarily over for prosecutors, because it's understandable. You would never want to think that your father would kill your mother and your brother. Tough spot. So for Alex Murdaugh today, I think the question for him as well, and he probably has an idea what his son may think. I don't know what their conversations have been. But Alex Murdaugh wants to know if all in the family are on the same page, believing that he's innocent, a man being wrongfully prosecuted. Are they all in? Are they all on the same side here? Or is Buster Murdock somewhere else in all of this? Now, he's not asked that question. That's an improper question. Do you think your father did it? Can't ask that question because it goes to the ultimate issue in the case. It would be objectionable. But the jury's got to pick up the clues, and the clues come from the way he testifies, what he says, how he says it, where he's looking, and just how he is on that witness stand. So let's take a look and a listen to perhaps the most, the person who this case has impacted more than anyone else in the world. More than anyone else on earth, this case has impacted Buster Murdock. Let's watch his testimony.
Buster, when did you first find out that your mom and brother were murdered?
My dad called me. I can't remember the exact time, but it was later. And he called me on the phone. He asked me if I was sitting down, and I was like, yeah. And then he, sounded odd, and then he told me that my mom and brother had been shot.
What'd you do?
Well, Brooklyn, my girlfriend, was with me, and I think she heard she could hear my conversation kind of over the phone, and so she just started packing stuff, and I kind of just sat there for a minute. I was in shock, but eventually we got our stuff together and drove down to Moselle.
Do you remember what time you got to Moselle?
It was early in the morning, late in the morning. If we left around 10:30, 11, got there sometime probably around 2 o'clock in the morning.
And when you got there, did you see your dad?
Yes, sir.
What kind of condition was he in? What was his demeanor?
Yeah, his demeanor was, he was destroyed. He was heartbroken. I walked in the door and saw him and gave him a hug and just broken down.
Could he speak?
Not really.
Was he crying?
Yes, sir.
So take a moment to think about this, right? So the jury has to judge Alex Murdaugh. The crime is all within this one family. And if they take away from Buster Murdock that, hey, he thinks, he has doubts. He thinks his father's innocent. He doesn't believe prosecutors have charged the correct person in all of this. If that's what they believe he believes, that sort of opens the door for a jury to be much more receptive to reasonable doubt. Because this isn't like stranger on stranger crime. This is a crime that's all in the same family. So if he's okay with it, maybe the jury will say, well, all right, if he's okay with it, then maybe I'm okay. But I don't know exactly what the dynamic was all throughout this testimony, because I'm not in the courtroom. But you know who is? Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, and he's joining us live tonight from Walterboro, South Carolina. Matt, great to see you. Big day. Buster Murdock, I can't imagine anyone being in his shoes, but I've seen it before here through the years at Court TV, and it's the toughest spot of all. This crime has, you talk about victim impact, has the biggest impact on him on both ends. So what did you see? What did you observe? What was it like in the courtroom during his testimony?
There was an energy in the courtroom, in the courthouse behind me. This was the day that these jurors and everybody that's been following this trial has been waiting for. Buster Murdock on the stand. And I can tell you this much, the jurors were adjusting their seats, so were the people in the gallery, trying to get a good look and a straight shot to watch his body language. And speaking of, it was kind of interesting to watch his dad's body language, who we have seen very tearful through this whole trial and very emotional, right there with a grin on his face as his son was talking about some of the most painful moments in their life that brought us here today.
Amazing. The other thing that strikes me, they look so much alike. Like Paul looked more like his mother Maggie, but Buster, he's absolutely a Murdock, looks like his dad, looks like his uncle in the gallery. Let's get to some of his testimony. A phone call that was made According to prosecutors, after the murders, according to the defense, when he was going to visit his mom, what do we know about that phone call?
Now, this is key for the defense, right? For their alibi timeline that they're starting to build and to build throughout the week, because he calls Buster on the way to Buster's grandmother's house. He refers to her as M. This is Libby's house, leaving from Moselle over to their property over there. And he says that he doesn't notice anything out of the ordinary. That's what really sticks out. Take a listen.
And then at 9:10:47, there's an entry that says, Alec Murdaugh calls Buster, and it says 60 seconds long. And that's at 9:10:47 p.m. on June 7th. Do you remember getting that phone call?
Yes, sir. And he was just letting me know that he was going out to Alameda to check on them.
Okay. And was this an unusual conversation you had with him?
No, sir.
What was his demeanor in the conversation?
Normal.
Had it changed from any of the other times you talked to him earlier in the day on the 7th?
No, sir.
And would he on occasion call you when he was going to check on his mother, M?
He would, yes, sir.
Was that an unusual occurrence?
No, probably one of the more regular occurrences. We all usually would make phone calls like riding in a car.
That was a lot that we heard from Buster, a lot of explaining, a lot of not out of the ordinary. This happened all the time. That was a theme as they were trying to button up and poke holes in the prosecution's case, Vinny.
It's important. I mean, you know, I've covered trials where the children believe the parent on trial committed the murder, and it's a much different vibe. This vibe is very much, I mean, he's not overly emotional or anything like that, but he's very much, I mean, he knows what he's saying is helping his father. He's no dummy. I mean, he's a smart guy. He knows this is helping his father, this testimony, and it may very well be truthful. I mean, I have no reason to believe that he's lying up on the stand. Now, there's another moment today I thought was very interesting, and this goes back to that part of the interview of Alex Murdaugh where, again, the prosecution is saying there's some sort of a quasi-confession. I did him so bad, describing what happened to Paul. How did that play out today?
Right, because up till now, there's been no explanation from the defense on this, and that's what prosecutors wanted this jury to really believe, that this was somewhat of a slip-up, somewhat of an admission to guilt, that he murdered his family. Well, today, you know, Murdock, that was on the stand, not the other one at the defense table, addressed it, and he said he heard his dad say they. Take a listen.
What'd your dad say?
Said they did him so bad.
Was that the first time you'd heard him say they did him so bad?
No, sir.
When was the first time you heard him say they did him so bad?
First time I heard him say that was the night that I went down to Moselle, the night of June the 7th.
Did he say that more than one time?
He did.
So Buster saying, Vinny, that he heard his dad say it twice, including when he first arrived at the scene, and then a second time in this video that he would have seen later. And this is a moment, again, no notebooks with this jury, but they perked up.
Let me tell you, if the jury believes Buster in this part of his testimony, that he's saying it in other moments, that piece of evidence is off the table for prosecutors. They better run away from it if they think that this jury is going to believe what Buster said. And as I said, he may very well and may very likely be telling the truth up there. I don't see this guy going up there committing perjury, but maybe he is, or maybe he's hearing what he wants to hear. I don't know. But if that jury believes that piece of the testimony, that piece of evidence is gone for prosecutors. All right, Buster, big part of today, but there was another witness, pretty significant.
Yeah, so we know that there's going to be at least two expert witnesses on the stand. One is going to be their own pathologist. That's later this week, we believe. And then today was a forensic engineer. And this person, Mike Sutton, was up on the stand, and he was really That's not Mike Sutton, but there was a key moment when there was one expert that took the stand, and Dick Harpootlian pulled out a gun. Oh, that is Mike Sutton. Pulls out a gun and points it in a direction and gets a big reaction from this jury and gallery, really. Take a listen.
Well, I'm not 5'2" or 5'4". I think you said 5'2" or 5'4". But position me tempting, but I don't know how I can do this so I'm not pointing at somebody.
Okay, so a moment of levity there, Vinny, and probably much needed. This was kind of a long day. This has been a long trial.
It is.
We're now at 5 weeks.
Yeah, 5 weeks, and we're not done yet. We shall see. Matt Johnson, I know we'll be speaking later. Thank you so much, sir. I want to bring in Charlotte, North Carolina tonight, host of the Murdock Family Murders Impact of Influence podcast, Matt Harris, back with us. Matt, great to see you. Tell me about Buster Murdock. What do you know about him and his relationship with his dad?
Well, Vinny, missed you, first of all, and your opening was spot on. I think it's important to point out that I think Buster was a sympathetic witness because people were yapping that maybe the prosecution should have come after him a little bit about how much his dad lied about money and drugs and all this. But I think that would have gone nowhere, and you're the prosecutor, you know better than me. But to pick on the guy who lost his mother and son, I don't think would have been a good strategy. We know that they were tight. They talked about the Little League games, coaching Buster, coaching Paul as well, and being involved in their sports, helping even when Alec was behind bars, some of the jailhouse calls which you played. One of them was helping Buster get back into law school. They were tight. The whole family was tight. I mean, the number of times that they talked on just June 7th, I don't talk to my mom that much in 6 months, and if I did, I'd probably go insane, and I love you, Mom. But this family was constantly in contact, constantly talking, and constantly involved with each other. There's no question, even that we heard from the prosecution witnesses all the last few weeks.
All right, Matt Harris staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about again, being in the position that Buster Murdock is in, also take a look at some of the evidence that he talked about today, plus coming up next hour. On the docket tonight, the murder of Gabby Petito by her boyfriend, Brian Laundrie. Now her parents are suing his parents, and we have a preview of this upcoming trial on Court TV.
You know something, and the fact that you're hiding behind your attorney, which we understand your constitutional rights not to speak, but it doesn't make any sense to us.
A Wisconsin woman accused of killing her friend with eye drops.
And then defrauding her for over $250,000.
The state believes this defendant has evidenced her capacity to take advantage of at-risk individuals.
Was the victim trying to commit suicide?
Or was she murdered for money?
The Eye Drops murder trial. Live coverage coming soon on Court TV.
Lovid is right for you.
I spoke to my mom every day, multiple times a day, and the like for my dad and for my brother too. And that's just me. And I know it's like they're all talking to each other too. Just a lot of conversating throughout the day over the telephones within the family.
They're a close family. They absolutely are. I mean, there's no doubt that prior to these murders, I mean, they talk to each other there are families that don't do that. This family did. And you've got, an adult child who's calling up mom every single day, talking to dad every day, talking to his brother. Kind of amazing when you think about it. But we know how this story ends, at least part of the story ends. I want you to listen to this because I found this very fascinating, this next piece of testimony from Buster Murdock talking about his dad, because we've seen over and over again, right, the birthday video that the defense has shown us and said this happy family. Here's Buster Murdock talking about his dad's birthday date.
When's your dad's birthday? Do you know the exact date? It's not a test. You just say you don't know if you don't know.
No, I don't know the exact date.
It's around Memorial Day?
That's right.
Okay.
27th, maybe.
Alec looked a little nervous on that part, right? He doesn't know my birthday? What? Like, wow. Now, that might be kind of normal for folks, but for a tight family, is it that normal? I'm not sure. But let me put this up on the screen, because this is another fascinating part. This is from the Daily Mail back in November of 2022. Responding emotionally to the dailymail.com's inquiry, presumably you're supporting your father. He replied, "You have no right to presume anything," is what Buster reportedly said to the Daily Mail. And he was adamant as he said, quote, "I don't want to see it written anywhere that I'm supporting my father." Wow. Like I said, he's in a tough spot. Now, that's what the Daily Mail is reporting. We haven't independently interviewed Buster Murdock about this issue. But let's kind of unpack this a little bit. Still with us, host of the Murdock Family Murders Impact of Influence podcast, Matt Harris. And joining us now in New York City, psychotherapist, host of Talking Live on Facebook Watch and the Bite Side podcast, Dr. Robbie Ludwig. All right, Dr. Robbie, let me ask you first just about this position, and we've seen it many times on Court TV. This is a little different because his brother's also murdered, but the position that Buster Murdock is in the middle of all of this.
Well, when I look at Buster on the stand, and I've worked with crime victims in my practice, there's probably a sense that he's just in denial, that this all feels fake in some ways, that it's not really reality. So I'm sure there's a part of him that's still trying to make sense of everything that's happened, because it's so over the top. It's probably psychologically very hard to process, on top of the grieving and probably the questions that he has. But I found him to be very credible on the stand and very respectful. And I think he's trying to do his best to answer all the questions that he can.
Now, I agree with you. I saw nothing in his demeanor that would strike me as this guy's trying to pull one over on the jury one way or the other. He didn't seem like he was out on a vendetta. I just felt bad for him. I feel bad for the position he's in. Matt Harris, let me ask you, just to respond to that Daily Mail report, have you independently or anywhere else heard Buster Murdock talk about, what his feelings are about what's taking place, the allegations that his father is the murderer?
Well, I think that we've seen that he's been in the courtroom every day, and just one row behind before they were told to move back a little bit. He's been there, and this testimony shows that he has his dad's back. Who knows what that comment was taken? I know it was a situation where he was trying to get away, and I believe he's in Hilton Head. Basically, they jumped out of a bush and jumped on him and started saying things, and who's to say what he heard as a question or what the reaction was. I don't think there's any doubt that he is supporting his father in this trial.
Dr. Robbie, I agree. He is, everything he testified to today clearly helps the defense. It absolutely does. What did you take away, though, from there was one moment where he seemed emotional, and that was talking about finding out about the murder of his mom and his brother, but it wasn't over the top, which was interesting. Do you think that's just maybe who he is, or how he is attempting to process all this, or trying to, try to keep his composure on the witness stand?
Absolutely. And, when we look at people who are grieving, there's no one way to grieve. And you have to remember, Buster understands that this is a very high-profile case. He may have very strong feelings about being overly emotional while on the stand. He might have been advised not to present as overly emotional, but it's very possible that Buster hasn't even begun to truly make sense of what's really happened. He could be kind of in a fog state where he's still trying to make sense out of the loss, and his life is turned upside down right now. And if he is very loyal to his father, I'm sure he has some questions about, how things played out and what the real story is. You have to remember that Alex is a criminal. He's more of a financial criminal. And what we know about sociopaths is that these types of criminals are a little bit of an enigma. We don't know if they can turn from white-collar crimes to killers. So I'm sure Buster is thinking through all of the possible scenarios and trying to stay loyal to the only parent he has who's alive.
Yeah, and as we see him in court, he's there with his girlfriend, Brooklyn, who has been there with him throughout all of this. That's another tough spot to be in, and we wish them the best. And however it turns out, whatever, because he didn't do anything in this case relative to his mom, his brother. He's just, again, stuck in the middle of all this.